this is what we've been waiting for, is to get this opportunity to play for this state championship. And now we're here. But he's had a couple big runs this season for us. But it was a great job at the point of attack of our offensive line.
Franchini, play fake, looking, going deep. Tyson's open, pitch and catch, touchdown.
Right now, it's whatever it takes.
This is the Chuck Smith Show on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Now, here's Coach Smith and your host, Nick Cosco.
It's the Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Cosco. With me, as always, every week is Mainland head coach Chuck Smith. Coach, we're still rolling. Season's still going. One more game, 36-35, overtime win over Somerville, the Central Group 3 champions. Epic state semifinal game where we're going to dive all into it. Old Tappan is on tap for Sunday at Rutgers University, going for a second straight state championship. Of course, this time in Group 3 compared to Group 4 last year. It was a roller coaster Friday night. It was snowing. It was raining. Then it cleared up, and then the drama it kept building and building. Sure enough, you guys survive in advance once again. One more to go. I don't know how. I mean, I summed it up, but I can't even imagine. You were probably at a loss for words at one point.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what, after that game and, converting a 2-point conversion, I found myself just trying to catch my breath for a bit because of the excitement and just the pressure of that moment, and just being fortunate to capitalize on that. But, it was a great feeling for the kids, and my heart goes out to Somerville because, they played a tremendous game, had a tremendous season this year. It was a great team. I mean, either team could have won that game. We were just fortunate enough to pull it out the end there.
When I mentioned the roller coaster, I'm looking at the box score, kind of just going over it again. Again, I was on the broadcast with my guy Mike Pavlichko on Central Jersey Sports Radio, so we got the opposite end of it, basically right over top of your fans and, of course, your coaching staff on the other side of the booth. So it was a unique perspective for sure. And then this game, again, 7-0. You guys take the lead first, 7-0. They come back and tie it. You guys are just trading touchdowns. It's 14-14 at one point. You go up 21-14 at the half. At one point, you guys are up 28-14. Then all of a sudden, they just start storming back. Maybe a couple, miscues on your guys' end. It's 28-28. You guys have a chance to win the game at the end of regulation. We'll get into it in a second. And then can't capitalize there after a fumble. You end up going to overtime, and then they score first. So at one point, they score 21 unanswered points, and they're up 35-28. In that overtime period, with you guys getting the ball, a chance to tie or obviously go for the win. At that moment, especially in overtime, when they just stormed all the way back, what was the initial feeling for you, your staff, your players, the entire sideline?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Somerville's a great football team, and there was 10-something left to go in the game, I believe. We're up 28-14, and, they're too good of a team not to come back too proud of a football program, too many good players over there. And distribute them, they went down the field and scored, stopped us, scored again to tie it. We had the ball late in the game, had a chance to maybe do something. We had a turnover deep in their end. And that really, kind of like, I remember my feeling then. I was like, oh my gosh, hopefully this gets pushed to overtime now because, I thought we were in a position to possibly win the game right there at the very end. And then, they got the ball, scored, within X amount of plays there. And when we got the ball back and scored, that's when, I kind of like the PAT team walked out there and I said on the headset to the coaches, I said, I think we should go for 2 here. And part of the thought process was we're having a hard time stopping them there. I think they scored on 3 of their last 4 possessions there. And even a possession before that, I think they threw was a pick in the end zone, Jake Blum. And, I was sitting there and one of the coaches upstairs said, I think you should call timeout to think about. And I didn't think about it really. I called timeout and just said, hey, we're going for 2. And the kids were excited though, and that's the one thing I got to give the kids a lot of credit for is as bleak as it may have seemed that we had that lead and squandered it, which we did. And then them scoring first right away really could have taken the air out of our sails. And they didn't cower to it. There wasn't any look of dejection or, giving up or anything like that. And kind of like when I said we're going to go for 2, like it kind of like it was like all of a sudden everybody plugged in real fast. Like the looks on their faces in the huddle were like, okay, let's go get this thing, man. Like there was a look of determination. Like we're going to go out and accomplish this now. And, I just asked the quarterback which way he wanted to go with the play. We've been practicing this play forever. And I can't tell you the last time I called that play in a game. This is God's honest truth. And on the bus ride home, one of my receivers from 2008, Kyle Davis, who was actually Jake Blum's cousin, sent me a video of us running against Holy Spirit in 2008, exact same play to the right. And then 10 minutes after that, the quarterback who threw him that pass, Brent Caprio, texted me on my phone and said, "Hey, was that 71 slam?" I was like, "Yeah, it was." So they all knew what the play was and what we practiced. And, it's one of those things like, you have that arsenal of 2-point plays or third and short type of plays that you practice a lot, but sometimes you don't call them. Maybe it takes half a season to call it, or maybe you don't call it at all that season. I've been doing this a long time, and there's certain plays we practice and a season comes and goes and you haven't even done it, but the kids executed to perfection. Johnny made a great play, a great placement on the football where only Jake could catch it. Jake made a great sliding catch. He was across the end zone to make sure if he caught it, it was good going to the ground. And it just led to a wild celebration, as you saw in the broadcast from there, and moved us on to the next round, to the state championship.
Yeah, we'll break down the highlights in just a little bit. I mean, it is amazing how your players from, what was that quick math in my head, 16 years ago, all of a sudden say, yeah, we ran that same play. Honestly, I can't believe they dug up the footage that fast. That's pretty impressive as well. When you called that play, and I remember Jake talking after the game to, a little bit of a media scrum after you guys celebrated and had your, post-game meeting right there. And of course, the kids got off on Saturday. When he was asked about, because he's the holder too. So generally, again, Nate Cashy and him and everybody else walked out onto the field, getting ready to kick the extra point. You guys call a timeout, and then you change your decision, say, let's go for 2 here. And then at least from our perspective up in the booth, I was looking down and I see Nate on the sideline still. And I feel like, he was either distraught, excited, maybe a little bit of everything, where it's like he could tie the game because he's been perfect all year. And he's also like, oh my God, I'm really excited, but also mad that we're going for it because we can win or lose right here. Jake said that, he was on board. He wanted to go for it even while they were walking out for the PAT. Did you have that sense from your players the entire time that they did not want to kick the extra point right away, maybe aside from Nate, that they wanted to go for 2?
I think it's our fighting mentality we have on our football team. Nobody expects us to be right here, right now this year, after what we went through last year and who we lost and whatnot. But every year is different, and we survived the tough schedule this year. I think the schedule really prepared us for the postseason so far. And, the way I looked at it was, here we are on the road playing the number 1 overall seed in, the South Central Group 3 bracket. We're an underdog. Some people had us down by 2 touchdowns in that game. They had just scored, 3 out of the last 4 possessions or whatever they had right then and there. And I was like, you know what, let's just go for it, man. Let's put the game on the line, put the game in the kids' hands, and let's see what happens. And if we win, awesome. If we lose, we fought till the very end and wasn't, for a lack of trying. And, the kids, like I said, when I told the kids we're going for 2 in the play, they were focused, man. They were like as determined as you could ever see a group of individuals. It was awesome.
So we'll dive into some highlights right here. Again, 36-35 win over Somerville in the Group 3 state semifinals on the road. Again, these highlights are courtesy of NJ Advanced Media. So we'll look at the first one. Right after a botched punt, Coach, Somerville looking like they're going to knock on the door right here. But Jake Blum, we just mentioned him. That was a huge interception to keep it a 2-score game, or excuse me, keep it a 1-score game.
Yeah, that was gigantic. We had driven down the field on the possession and then stalled on, I think it was on their 40. Or across the 40, and I kind of went against my own. Usually the guys know, my staff, if we're across the 40, we're probably going to go for it, probably. And it was on the 38, and I said, let's punt. We're up 2 scores here. Let's just go down, punt. And unfortunately, we botched the snap, and they recovered and went down the field. And that play was a huge interception right there. And Jake Blum had a tremendous game. I mean, we know he caught the 2-point conversion, but he had a school record 11 catches, 182 yards, a touchdown catch. He had the interception there. He also had 10 tackles in the game. A great all-around effort by Jake. But that, when you look back at that game, at that moment, yeah, it was a big play. But when you look back at the game in a whole, that was a huge play.
without a doubt. Again, he had that touchdown right before half and then put you guys up 21-14. So it was 21-14 at that point with the interception from Jake. And then, of course, you go right down the field. Rocco caps it off with a touchdown and put you guys up by 2 scores. And then, of course, we just alluded to before, Somerville starts storming back. Rocco unfortunately had that fumble when you guys were driving down the field, but he obviously made up for it right here. This is the touchdown in overtime for you guys to answer Somerville's touchdown.
Yeah, we were doing a pretty good job running the perimeter against Somerville, and guys did a good job on the blocking and all that. And that was a 3rd down play. So, we were in 2-down territory, obviously, to get, I think it was 3rd and 4 or something like that on the play. And, Rocco makes the kid miss right there. His brother Lucas made enough of a block, for spring him right there to put us within that 1 point to make that decision about the game.
And another look at it right there, and did a good job breaking the tackle almost in the backfield right there. So we'll skip ahead to the final play of the game, which everything was on the line right here. But in case you missed it, this is the 2-point conversion right here. Franchini rolling out to the right side, and as you mentioned, only where Jake Blum could catch it.
Yeah, it was after calling the play, and the play went off. I was watching the quarterback because I couldn't really see the coverage on the other side of the field because it was opposite of us. And, I saw Johnny rolling out. It's a run pass option. It's a sprint out. And I could see that he got pressured just by his path he was taking. And then when he threw the ball, like a lot of people said, there was like a delayed reaction. I saw him throw the ball, and then there was like this uncomfortable long pause. And I think all of us were thinking, oh, my God, we must have dropped it, or it was incomplete or something like that, And then when all of a sudden you saw Jake comes sprinting out, and I heard the guys upstairs screaming in the headsets, he caught it. And then it was like, oh my gosh, thank God, because I never saw it until I watched the film, of what really happened or what people texted me that night. But just, great feeling. Just a like I said before, like a wonderful thing for our football team. But I really felt bad for Somerville, to tell you the truth, because they, just to look at their kids, and I'll tell you what a classy football program they have there, because as we're shaking hands, and I've been on the other side of this many times too. Kids, their hearts broken. They were undefeated. Seniors, their last game at home. A lot of kids were crying, but I'm telling you, like, I can't tell you how many kids congratulate us and said, go win the state championship, good luck, go win the title, a really classy program. Says a lot about their coaching staff and the culture that they've had there, because it's a old program there, and they've had a lot of success over the years, and they're building that thing up. And they got a tremendous group of players there.
Yeah, they certainly did. They were basically back on the upswing over the last 7 or so years. They had a quick dip, and then they rose right back up. And obviously this year winning a sectional title, going 12-0, going into that game, coming up just short of a state championship appearance. So for you guys, it is a state championship appearance. It's the 2nd straight year. And out of the last 3 years, this historic run for Mainland football. Again, state semis in 2022, state champs in Group 4 last year, now in Group 3 going for the state championship. Old Tappan is on deck, coach. They're 11-1 this season. Head coach Brian Dunn has done a fantastic job with that team all the way up in North Jersey. They won the North Section 2 Group 3 sectional title a couple weeks ago over West Essex. And then last week looked very impressive around the same time you guys were finishing up. They took down Pascack Valley 43-14 on the road, albeit. And that's the only team they lost to this year, too. They lost to them on the road as well. 27-21 back in October. They really took it to them that time. So first impressions of Old Tappan and the fact that they were able to bounce back and avenge their only loss in the state semifinals.
Yeah, they're a good football program. A lot of history. They were state champs a couple of years ago, like you mentioned. Coach Dunn's been around for a long time. When I was looking at the history of their football program on Gridiron, I always go back just to see maybe if they've had ups and downs and stuff like that. Very few downs, believe me. And I keep going back. I think Gridiron goes back to 2001, and Coach Dunn was the coach then. So, obviously they have a structure in place, a culture. I'm sure the staff has been around a long time also when you have somebody like that that's been in place for that many years. And it shows, with what they have, a solid football team, tough football team. They're the type of team, like, I don't want to watch any more film of them, because every time I keep watching them, they keep getting better and better and better as I'm watching them. But they're good. They have a couple of very good athletes out there. Their quarterback, the sophomore, number 8, Great dual threat type of quarterback. Seems like we've been running the dual threat quarterbacks all postseason. And he's tremendous, got an unbelievable arm strength throwing the ball downfield. Even the other kid who was the starting quarterback, I believe, last year, and I heard he was the quarterback that came in and helped beat Delsey in the championship a couple of years ago, number 12. A great all-around athlete. He plays quarterback, he plays receiver, he's the safety. He's very active in run support. He kicks the ball if he returns the ball. He's their Swiss Army knife. He's really good in their line play. The guys get off the ball. They're quick. They're not the biggest team in the world, but they get off the ball. They remind me a lot of us, how we're not the biggest team in the world either, but they get off the ball. And their fullback, middle linebacker, number 22, is a solid kid. He reminds me of the kid from Homedale to a degree, but a little bit better, a little bit thicker, a little bit more of a burst of speed on. But they have some guys, man. They really do. I mean, obviously, they're 11, 12, and 1 in a state championship game also, and they were state champs 2 years ago. So a lot of these kids that are seniors now played in that state championship. They know what it takes. This is no easy task, that's for sure. We're preparing for a big battle on Sunday up at Rutgers.
Yeah, looking at their offense again, you mentioned their linebacker and fullback, Alex Orecchio, and he also is a good receiving back as well. 42 catches this year, over 600 yards. He's got 6 touchdowns through the air, and then he has 11 on the ground, which is really impressive. And he's not even their leading rusher, but he's tied for the lead in rushing touchdowns at 11. Nick Rossi, their other running back, has almost 1,000 yards this year. He's got 11 touchdowns. And you mentioned the dual threat quarterbacks, which we're talking about pretty much every single week, as you alluded to. Zachary Maselli, the sophomore quarterback, 18 through the air. Just 2 picks, is over 2,000 yards, and he also has 7 touchdowns on the ground. So they're dominant. I alluded to Orecchio before as a fullback, receiving fullback. He's also a really solid linebacker. Yeah. Actually, I believe he has 7 interceptions this year as well from that linebacker spot. So he's one of their dominant players. When you talk about defending this offense, and again, we've talked about it leading up your entire playoff run here, Barnegat, Homedale, Seneca, and obviously with Somerville last week. A lot of them were dual threat quarterbacks. You throttled the first 3. Last week was an absolute battle. And again, it's probably the same question as the last couple of weeks with Maselli as Old Tappan's quarterback, another dual threat. Is it the same type of game plan relatively, how to contain him, or because he seems like he has more weapons at his disposal, you have to maybe defend him a little bit differently this week?
Yeah, he's a little bit different from the other quarterbacks where a lot of the other teams ran like a power run scheme with them, with their quarterbacks. This kid's really elusive. He's tough because when he drops back the pass, if it's not there, he's going to scramble and go. He's good. He really is a good athlete. What really impressed me was just his arm strength for being a young kid, the way he can throw the ball down the field, and his guys go and get it too. They're receivers, number 14, number 28, the backs catching a lot of passes. That's a lot of catches. That's almost as many catches as our top receiver has, he's something we're really going to have to contain to have a shot, a good shot with our defense. Our defense is going to have to play you look at their stats, they have almost 1,000-yard rusher, another kid with a bunch of yards too. That's a lot of yards on the ground. But then you look at their one quarterback's throwing for almost 2,000. It's a lot to prepare for. It's not just like you're emphasizing to stop the run game or you're emphasizing to stop the passing game. You got to stop the entire offense. And I don't know if you can ever stop an entire offense. You just look to try to take away a few things they do well, and hinder that in that aspect. So, our defensive staff is working really hard. They've been working since Saturday on this, just to come up with a game plan that will put us in a position to be successful.
Ultapan, a lot of playoff history, of course, as we both alluded to, state champions back in 2022. They defeated Delsey, who won the Group 3 title just last year as well. And, that was in a 12-1 season for Ultapan. Of course, they got to the sectional finals and lost last season, so they're looking to get back at the top of the heap in Group 3. When you mention an offense like that is so good, and it seems like it has been pretty much at that level, especially over the last couple of years where they're winning state titles and they're competing for state titles, you're not going to limit everything. And when you look at the quarterback having over 2,000 yards, guys that almost have 1,000 yards rushing, a lot of combined touchdowns across the entire board, Is that a product of them just running so many plays and playing a lot of ball control and just pretty much picking apart defenses? Is that a product of them just scoring a lot this season, having a lot of possessions? How do you see the way their offense operates?
I think it's a very balanced offense, really. A lot of teams, when you look at them schematically, you can kind of tell by just the numbers, what they're doing, running, passing, whatever, or they might just have a guy they throw to or a running back that they rely on heavily. But this team is a very well-balanced offensive football team. They throw the ball around to a bunch of guys. Yeah, they have a leading receiver. Of course, every team does, but they sprinkle around enough that you can't just focus on putting your best dudes to that guy's side. You got to worry about the other guys too, because they'll find them. And then you got to worry about the running game, because when you have a dual threat quarterback that could pull and run the ball, you got to worry about two people now and there, so it's a defensive nightmare to prepare for. I always say the defense has a harder time than the offense getting ready for games, because they got to look at the offenses and try to pick it apart. And, this is a big challenge for our team this week, defending their offense.
We'll switch gears to the offensive side of the football for you guys. Everyone knows how you guys operate. We've said it every single week. Wing T with some passing sprinkled in, and it's really excelled this year with Jake's breakout season at wide receiver. Not to say that you haven't had wide receivers in the past. Obviously, Jamie Tyson last year really helped it out, and obviously with a developing quarterback in John Franchini, really just airing it out. He's already, I believe he's now the all-time record holder in Mainland history for single season yards as well as career yards, and he still another year to go. So it really shows that the offense has been unlocked with the addition of the passing game over the last 2 years, maybe a little bit during his freshman year a couple years ago as well. So when you're attacking this Ultapan defense, I already mentioned Alex Orecchio, their linebacker, who's an offensive all-star, but again, he's an all-star on defense as well. Michael Gracie, another guy, one of their defensive linemen, big guy up front, almost 70 tackles on the season as well. So he really causes a lot of problems for opposing offensive lines. I got to imagine it's probably the same answer I'm going to get from you as every week. Just attack them, run the football, open up the passing game, and do what you guys do best.
Yeah, we got to be prepared for their aggressiveness. They really, when you're watching teams, some teams might have big guys up front, but they don't get off the ball fast. They're just big space takers. Other teams might be smaller and quicker. This team isn't the biggest team we faced all season, but they might be the quickest team up front, especially their defensive line and the way their backers react. Their whole team, you could tell they're a championship type of football team. They get to the football. You can see they pride themselves on getting to the football. Because I watch when I'm watching film, I'll watch, their overall scheme, how they line up the things, stuff like that, what every coach does. And then I just start looking at individual players and assessing what they're doing and how they play, how they react, what's their read steps, what are they keying on, how do they react to a run or a pass and stuff like that. And one thing you can tell is they're very well coached by just their footwork, their stances and things like that. That's a credit to their coaching staff. But you can see they're very aggressive to the football, and that, hey, high school football is all about running the football and stopping the football. If you're lucky enough to be able to pass the ball, then you become a little bit dangerous, I think it's going to be one of those things where we really have to prepare for their aggressiveness, of what they're doing. That's a tough thing to do when you're blocking, guys that are coming at you full tilt, so we've got to really, we started to develop hopefully a good game plan on Saturday and tweaking it the past couple of days. And we still got a few more days of practice to get ready for it. And thank God we got extra practices this, to get ready for this big game.
Yeah, looking ahead at the schedule for all the state championship games across all 5 public groups and, of course, the 2 non-publics. 4 games up at MetLife on Black Friday, so good luck getting past the American Dream Mall as well for everybody who's traveling up there. Then next Wednesday for the Thanksgiving Day type of teams, 2 games at Rutgers. You guys are the 1 game at Rutgers University on a Sunday, Group 3 finals right at 1 o'clock. Different from last year's. Again, you guys played for the Group 4 state title against Ramapo. Ended up winning that one, but you guys were sandwiched in between a couple games at Rutgers on a Sunday last year. What's it like playing the only game at Rutgers on Sunday this time around?
Yeah, I don't think too much about that. I think if anything, it's kind of a little bit better planning wise. Last year, we had to get up there. You had to arrive by a certain time. You had to go over to the bubble to warm up, which was fine. But then you had to get done your warm up. And you had to get over to the other field, to the stadium. And that was kind of a long walk to walk all the way around the stadium to get to your locker room. And then you just kind of came out and played the game, This year it's more we can arrive go put our stuff in the locker room, go out, do our normal pregame routine, go back in the locker room, come out for the game, kind of like more normal, to say. The whole thing when you're traveling the road, especially a distance like this, is really the structure. And when you're trying to plan this out because of the travel time, and you never know how, like I was wrong last week. Like I planned on, a 2-hour thing. And I think it took us like 2 hours and 15 minutes. Cause once we got past Rutgers University, also we hit a ton of traffic, and it was raining out, and, that slows things down. You're in a school bus, which takes slower anyway, and I don't like to get there too early. It's one of those things. It's kind of like, you don't want to get there too early. You don't want to get there too late where you're rushing either. You got to find that sweet spot, because like anything, when you take a bus ride, I don't care if we go to Ocean City, or we go on the Rutgers. As soon as you get off the bus, 60 people got to go pee, and that's what it's going to be. It doesn't matter how long the bus ride is, and that's another thing, we got to make sure we get up there and everybody's got time to do their thing. And then, you still got to get dressed. So you got to get taped, and when we take these longer bus rides like this, like we did last week, we had the kids dressed for comfort for the ride. So when they got up there, they were able to change, and our trainer came up and he taped the guys up there instead of taping them before we got on the bus. And they're sitting there for an hour and a half, 2 hours taped up, hours and hours before that. And also you got to plan your nutrition. You got to figure out when you're going to eat. We always try to do something a few hours before the game. So you got to plan all that also, how you're going to do all that and make sure the kids are hydrated. And so there's a lot of other things, people don't realize that goes into the whole planning of this. Even when we play our games at home, we're still in that same thought process, but your time's a little bit more different, but we're looking forward to it. Hey, our goal, once we got to the postseason, our goal was to get to Rutgers, and now we're here, and now it's just one more big game in front of us. And I know everybody's excited about it. We're healthy, except we had one injury Saturday, or Friday night, with our safety. We're just going to see how that plans out this week. But everybody's really excited about it. I don't think people really expected us to be here this year, this far into the playoffs. I think, people thought we might make the playoffs and that'd be about it. And I give a lot of credit to the kids and the coaching staff that we have, their determination, their grit, because you look at some of the teams we played, one of them still playing, for a state championship. The other two lost last week, of our 3 losses that we had this season. In semifinal rounds, so, our losses, even though they might have been a little lopsided on the scoreboard, we played some quality football teams. And I think the best thing about us is, we were trying to struggle a little bit for an identity this season, especially offensively. We're kind of peeling wheels here and there, a few guys playing some new spots. And, we stuck with it. We stayed true to our system, because there's some times where you second guess yourself, like, oh, should we do this or should we do that? Right. That's easy to do. It's harder to stay with your structure and your system. And we did. We stayed with it. And it's worked out. And I think, all of a sudden you could see the difference in our football team the last probably 6-7 weeks of the season. And it's just it really is a credit to the kids and their belief, and believing in what the coaches are putting out there on the field and the game plan, and sticking with it even when it wasn't going so hot midway through the season. There was never any doubters, no pointing fingers, no anything like that, and they just kept working hard, and it showed on the practice field all the time, and it's showing on the game field, and hopefully we got another performance in store for Sunday.
I like that answer, Coach. Real quick before I let you go, and then of course, preparing for the state championship game, it takes almost every second leading up to it, even especially over the course of a holiday week with Thanksgiving on Thursday. I'll leave you here with this one, and the reason why I brought up the fact that you guys are going to be on, be the only game on Sunday. It's interesting to me because you just mentioned how you can get up there. The routine is more of the routine on the road rather than what you did last year. You have to wait for a game to be done. You're practicing in the bubble. You come out, all of a sudden, game starts. And then once you're done, you celebrate, and all of a sudden, you have to get off the field. There's another game coming up. When you guys go out there for that pregame routine, the kids are stretching even before your actual routine starts. Unlike last year, especially the guys who were there last year and played a big part in winning that state title last year, they're going to have the opportunity to maybe soak in the atmosphere, soak it all in, and soak up what they're going to be playing in, and what they were doing last year and how they could do it again. Is that something that you guys are going to appreciate, maybe relish in before kickoff?
Yeah, I think the kids that were there last year understand to a degree. Yeah, the warm-up's going to be a little different this year because last year we were in the bubble with Ramapo sharing the bubble. There's not a ton of room in the bubble, really, Now we're going to be warming up in the stadium, and the scale of that, is probably going to be a little everybody's going to be in awe at first when you walk in there. I guess before last year, I was never really understood why they had the games at MetLife and Rutgers. I thought it was kind of, you're trying to get, maybe 1,000 people to come and watch your game, in a big, huge stadium. It would seem empty. Last year, I understood it. I got it. The atmosphere of it, the lights, them Rutgers flashing the red and white lights on, when somebody scored a touchdown, the video scoreboard being up and showing highlights up there, making the fans sit in a certain section so it does seem more crowded and stuff, Then I understood, this is really cool and this is really a really neat thing. And our kids this year, the kids that were there last year, you could tell they really appreciated it and enjoyed that atmosphere of a football game, playing in a big stadium like that. And that was a lot of the talk you'd hear them talking about, especially as the playoffs were approaching, like getting back to Rutgers. Last week we actually passed directly next to the stadium on River Road, and the kids were all like, hopefully we can be here next week. This is what we're playing tonight for, is to come back here, So you could tell they really enjoyed it too. Now the locker room situation is absolutely terrible up there. They throw us in the I think it's the lacrosse locker rooms. You got 60-some dudes with pads on trying to squeeze these little locker room that's about the size of my kitchen right here. And that needs to be addressed, maybe. I don't know. But it is really a neat atmosphere. Coming down the tunnel with the lights and the fan seal and the scoreboard coming out of the tunnel. It's really neat. Great experience. It's a lifetime memory for the kids, and that's what it's all about.
Well, they made lifetime memories last year. Hopefully you guys make positive ones this Sunday. Again, 1:00, Group 3 state championship. Mainland, Ultapan will play for it all. You guys looking for your second straight state title. Ultapan looking for their second Group 3 title in the last 3 years. Coach, good luck on Sunday. We'll be covering from down here. Unfortunately, I have other full-time responsibilities with college football, but I will be sure to keep track of it, and hopefully we'll talk positively to wrap up the season next week, and we'll do one more show next week. Wrap it all up. Hopefully it's with another trophy right behind you over your right shoulder.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Nick, and I really appreciate all the support we've had from our Corral Crazies, the Mustang alumni that constantly message, and the Mustang Nation that we have behind us. I think we're going to have a big crowd going up to Rutgers this Sunday.
Looking forward to watching again. 1:00 on Sunday at Rutgers University. Of NJ Advanced Media, our friends up north, they will carry the coverage for all state championship games, including that one against Old Tappan. Again, Rutgers University, 1:00 on Sunday. Coach, have a great Thanksgiving. We'll do it again next week. This has been the Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service.